All right. What do we do now?
Well, I guess we gotta start by telling everybody what we're kind of doing here. And Mike, since it was kind of your idea, I'll let you run with it there.
All right, cool. I'm Mike Fantini. That was Evan Worrell. Yeah, I was at the gym one day, and I've been listening to a lot of podcasts personally myself recently, and learning a lot from them, and noted their growing popularity. Obviously, I was kind of just like, why isn't there one that I've ever heard of for marching percussion? And I was like, we could do that. You know, we have connections in the activity. We know people all across the board. We've been taught by many different people, taught many different people at this point. So I was like, why can't we be the guys that tries it? You know? And so I guess what this is going to be is just, I guess to put it simply, is I want it to be a window into the top level of the activity that I feel like a lot of people want, just from talking to younger people and older people, and never got the opportunity to have, if that makes sense. So you've got a lot of young high school kids wanting to get to where we got, who don't know how people think, act, talk at the top level. You also have people that were in the activity at one point, say 10 years ago, then they aged out, got a job, are removed from it, and don't really know what's going on. I don't want to say they don't know what's going on, but things have changed in the past 10 years. Hell, I aged out in 2012, and things have changed in the last 5 years, you know?
Oh, yeah.
A lot. So it's one of those things. It's like, well, let's do that. So I was like, we can have guests on. We can do recaps of regionals. And the guest episodes will pretty much just be, like I said earlier, we're connected all over the place. Just have people on and just crack a beer and talk to them, like how they got started, where they're teaching now, if they are, their thoughts on the current state of the activity. I don't know. I just think it's something that needs to be out there in this day and age. And
yeah, man, like when you approached me with the idea, hey, got the idea to do this podcast, and we started throwing out ideas and just like putting together a list of people that we know that either influenced us or we got to drum with, that we got to teach. I was like, yeah, man, it just sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. A lot of podcasts that succeed are done by people that are knowledgeable and just they genuinely are enjoying doing it, you know? And it'll allow us to reconnect with people that we haven't talked to in a long time.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I know when I've taught at various places, and this also contributed to the idea, you have, like when I would tell stories from when I marched to these younger kids or people that never got to march, they were like extremely interested in hearing what I had to say. And we have like treasure troves of stories from the groups we were in. And like just during rehearsal, out of rehearsal, funny guys, just all kinds of stuff. So I think it could just be fun. And like I said before, like it's going to be opinionated. Like we're both naturally opinionated people. But our goal is we don't want to offend anybody.
No.
We're not going to attack anyone personally. We're not going to... we don't want to offend anyone, is my point.
Yeah, we're not going to belittle anything.
But at the same time,
it's just opinions.
If something's not clean, we're going to say that wasn't good. Or, you know, because there's a lot of controversial placements throughout the years of DCI and WGI based on... And you can go to YouTube at this point. It's the good thing about the internet. There's proof. You can go watch videos of those runs and be like, I don't know how they... You know what I mean? Like, it's... So we don't want to... We're not going to offend anybody, or at least we're not going to intend to offend anybody. But... All right, so I guess let's kind of give the reason why people should give a crap what we have to say. Kind of go over our backgrounds and upbringing in the activity, kind of put some credibility behind it. So I've been talking for a minute. I'll let you go first.
Sure, yeah. I mean, there's obviously tons of talented people out there in the activity, and fortunately enough for me, I was able to experience learning from a good portion of those people. Even going back to high school, my instructors went to Moorhead back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where they got to drum with a bunch of guys that marched early cadets and stuff, and that sort of culture was just kind of instilled on me when I was in high school. Actually influenced me to go on from my high school drumline to go to Moorhead, where I drummed there in the snare line for 4 years. Brian Mason's there now. He was obviously very big in DCI and wrote at Cavaliers, Phantom Regiment, Santa Clara Vanguard. I was a very successful person in the activity, and I got that kind of connection there. And then Moorhead allowed me to kind of mold myself and learn how to become a better drummer. Eventually, I marched indoor a few years at Tate's Creek, actually, in their opening inaugural independent season when they were an open class for a few years. Then went on to eventually make Carolina Crown. Learned from Lee Bettis, was the caption head there at that time, and Zach Schlicker was one of the snare techs. Marched there for 2 years, then was fortunate enough to get a spot at Rhythm X, where I marched for 3 years, starting in 2010, and then was the center by default in 2011, 2012.
The only young guy still there.
Yeah, it was like a design. I think it was a design default, but then there got to learn with Josh Brickey and Tim Jackson, Tim Fairbanks, Andrew Markworth, just people who are very prominent. A lot of those still today, writing for groups, designing for groups, teaching groups. Just having a very fortunate experience of my own to gain a lot of knowledge on the activity.
Yep. All right, and then I guess for me, I went to Moorhead. That's actually how Evan and I met in the first place. I got there in 2009, the fall of 2009, I think, and he had just gotten off tour with Crown, and so that's how we met, and been friends ever since. And we both marched the summer of 2010. I started my drum corps career at the Blue Stars in Tom Monk's first year there in 2010. I took the summer of 2011 off, and then I marched for Mike Jackson, Eric Shriver, Roger Carter for my age out at the Blue Coats in 2012. And then on the indoor side of things, I did Tate's Creek Indoor in 2010 for one season. And then Evan convinced me to, because like he said, everybody aged out after 2010.
I was the only one left.
Yeah, it's like I got to get some guys in there that marched and some stuff like that. I'd been in trouble. So I went up there. I actually had no intention of making it. I remember being like, I was like, I'll just go for fun. We'll see what happens. And maybe that looseness contributed to making it a little bit. I wasn't really nervous because I had no intention of making it. I didn't think I was good enough, and then I made that, and then I marched there in 2012 as well, in that 10-man indoor line, which was a fun experience too. Mm-hmm. So now that we're done talking,
it's actually kind of ironic because I didn't expect to make it my first year auditioning X either. I was like, "There's no way this is gonna happen."
Well, you knew after 2010 you were the only one that could come back.
Yeah,
everybody aged out, so you were like, "I'm gonna have to recruit my ass off."
Yeah,
and Rhythm X does that every year anyway. Like they know who's coming to auditions before the previous DCI summer is over. Like that's
I'm like on tour. Like, hey man, you gonna come audition at X this summer? You gonna come audition?
You know who's coming like 2 months before, and yeah, you just. I had no intention of doing indoor again after 2010, and it wasn't because I had a bad experience at Tate's Creek. I just didn't want to do it. And then after that summer, you just were like, yeah, just come for fun. Just see what happens. What do you have to lose? I said, fuck it. Got to have a lot of fun experiences, meet a lot of cool people doing it.
For sure.
All right, so now that we got those formalities out of the way, I knew that was going to be. See, I don't want this to be formal. We're literally sitting here drinking a beer right now. That's the sound at the beginning. Like, that's kind of the atmosphere we want to have. So now that those formalities are out of the way, kind of introduced ourselves, kind of talked about what the idea behind this is, let's dive into the activity. I kind of just think it'd be good to give anyone listening to this or anyone who's going to continue listening to this where we stand on it, like what our opinions of it are. Just
man, I love this activity. Like ever since I started following DCI,
tone the fanboyness down a little bit. Come on now.
Ever since this is gonna be awesome. My first DCI experience, I don't remember what year it was, but Southwind, when they were still in Div 1, I guess is what it was called now, World Class.
Yeah.
I saw them live and I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. So loud, it's so cool.
Like what you love to do on steroids, and you're just like, oh my god.
And I went to a local show, and ended up coming home with a Cavaliers VHS DVD. Yeah, VHS. It's somewhere in my parents' house.
We aren't that old, man. Come on.
Dude, it was from 2002. It was a Framework show. So obviously a phenomenal show. But I just fell in love with it. And I'm still in love with it. I love watching it. I love just keeping up with it, like how it changes people. As an activity, like it just gives you such an experience.
There's
like
nothing like it.
Yeah, it gave me such an experience.
There's nothing like it.
I could never dream for, like performing in huge venues, huge stadiums.
MetLife Stadium, Lucas Oil Stadium, like it's just insane.
The Georgia Dome,
they're
Alamo Dome.
I don't want to sell my life short, but to this day still, and it was 5 years ago now when I aged out, like marching onto the field through the tunnel in Lucas Oil makes you forget about a lot of the crap involved. And we will get in there. If you've never done drum corps, like there's a lot of bullshit. But you get to the end of that summer and you get to experience that last week, and it's so much fun, and the euphoric feelings you experience from all of that, you forget about all the bull crap. And then you go into the next season like, hell yeah, I'm gonna come back and do this again. And then like day 2 of move ins, you're like, shit, why the hell did I do this? Because then you're back on the grind, man.
Back on the grind, yeah.
The first 2 months of that tour is a grind, but it's a fun grind, if that makes sense. I don't know.
It's a rewarding one.
Yes, it's worth it.
There were always days that weren't fun, but the reward outweighs that exponentially. It's not even close. So that's why people go back. That's what people are like. I'm a 6-year vet, and
their bodies. I don't want to talk about that right now, but people that march drum corps for 6 years, their bodies are going to fall apart at like 35.
But yeah, I love
boat on that regard. But
I love drum corps. I think it just like teaches you so much. I mean, you hear the cliche video where it's like, oh, it teaches you so much about how to be a person, but it really does. Like to put that much effort in and then to reap the rewards, it is very gratifying. But
I still have never done anything that hard yet. I finished college. I'm almost done with a master's degree. I've been working for a handful of years. Like I'm finishing my master's while working. It's not hard.
Yeah.
Like nothing I've done since has come close to being as hard as the mental and physical stress that's put on you throughout that experience.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason that people have attributed it or grouped it into like a boot camp scenario, saying like, oh, it's similar to like the Army. I mean, you and I have never experienced those firsthand, so we could never say, but there are those comparisons that are made. In regards to DCI, like I guess is an activity, the state of the activity, I think it's definitely continuing to grow. Social media, like YouTube, there's the YouTube videos.
Oh, you've got flow marching now. That's
flow marching.
I think it's great for it.
Oh yeah,
I think it's a little overpriced, but I think it's great for the activity. You don't think it is?
No. Do you know what it cost to originally stream finals when they used to do it? Just for finals.
No.
It was close to like $80 or $90.
Just for finals?
Just for finals. So
I never did it. So
I mean, this isn't like a plug for flow marching, but I've seen people actually, as of today, be like, I can't believe I paid. Yeah, exactly. I can't believe I have to pay $30 for this and I can't go back and watch it. Well, the original stream, you couldn't go back and watch it either. And it was like $80 or $90 just for that either one day or one weekend, whatever it is. But at least now you can pay $30 over 3 months of the summer, June, July, August. So you're $90. So you're maybe a little bit over, but you're getting way more content.
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean,
you pay by the year, right? So like you get the WGI season too.
Yeah,
right?
you get WGI, you get BOA if you're in the BOA in Bands America, and that stuff's great too. Well,
so I retract my previous statement. It is not overpriced. I was uninformed and spoke too soon.
That's all right.
That happens sometimes.
But I think that stuff's great for drum corps.
The more exposure. The more exposure. Now, we were talking about this earlier. I love DCI. I'm a fan of WGI too, but if I had to pick a favorite, I think DCI is way better in my mind. I think the fact they both exist is extremely important because I think they benefit each other. I think WGI existing in the marching percussion world makes DCI better, and I think they just feed off of each other.
Yeah,
like DCI, I think. I've said this before. I think there are less great drum lines than there used to be, but I think there's more good ones, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Like the average has risen. Like
it's just like so hard to compare old and new. Like
the drill demand and everything.
The drill demand's different.
Musical demand
the
too.
style is different. Just the playing style is different. I mean, you and I played on Mylar for a winter, and I couldn't imagine having to do that for a whole summer. Just like kudos to those dudes.
That was an experience
for getting those chops and pulling that out. Like, I don't know if I'm even man enough to do that. Even marching, and we played hard at Crown, but I was playing on that Mylar, man. That was
any older guys that listen to this.
That's balls.
Are going to laugh their ass off.
Yeah,
at what we just said.
That's balls.
They're like, oh, these young whippersnappers. They don't know what's going on.
No, I didn't know, dude. Like,
no, we got to experience it, and it was. What was it, like a 16-bar phrase or something? Like, it wasn't even a lot of...
Yeah, and it was it was like a soft moment.
It wasn't choppy. Like, I couldn't imagine...
Stroking out some 16th note double stroke rolls at like 16 notes, like 120. That's pretty bad. That's pretty quick. But yeah, definitely WGI and DCI, man. Just anytime you can give people that outlet to drum all year competitively to keep them driving and not just, oh, it's August 20th and I just had finals. I don't have to worry about drumming for another like really 6 months until spring training or whatever.
I think it'll be good because I think we have differing opinions on WGI. Like, I think drums in a gym is don't sue me. I think drums in a gym is kind of stupid. I think it's a little too theatrical for me, for my taste. I kind of just did it because I wanted to be in more good snare lines. And I got to be, thankfully, and I got a lot better because of it. I was a better performer. I don't regret doing it. I would do it again if I went back in time. But I've just never been a huge gung-ho fan of the activity.
Yeah, and we definitely differ there.
But. Yeah, I know you love it. You're all about it. I still watch, man. I still watch it all, and I appreciate it. But it's...
I think the thing that I loved the most was just how personal it felt. Like...
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like in drum
corps, you're like you have like from the audience.
You're out there behind the back hash on the football field, and with people are screaming. You got your Shako pulled down over your eyes, and like WGI, you're just like, here I am, like this is me, like you can see me, I can see you. Let's do this thing. And I get drums in a gym. Obviously, is quite accurate because it's very, very acoustically not
good,
not great, but. Fortunately, they do have some good venues that allow for...
UD Arena is a great place for it.
Yeah, UD
the acoustics in that place are very dry. You hear very well. It's good stuff. No, but this activity has done a lot for me. I honestly wouldn't be the person I am today. Like, I ever think about that sometimes? Like, what if you hadn't done rudimental percussion? Like, what if you had made a decision to pursue baseball instead? Or, like... just any other activity, like your life would have been, and I guess you can say that about any decision you make in your life. Like,
yeah.
But I would be a completely different person if I'd never joined high school drumline.
If I hadn't gotten into drumline the way I had, I literally probably wouldn't be married to my wife.
It's true. You wouldn't.
We met at college.
We wouldn't know each other.
No, we wouldn't know.
I wouldn't have gone to Morehead State.
No, I wouldn't have gone to Morehead. Yeah.
Without high school drumline, I would not have gone to Morehead either.
Yeah, like I would never have gone to that school. That was the reason. I applied nowhere but there, much to my parents' dismay.
I applied
they wanted
some
me
other
to go
places.
somewhere else.
I applied some other places.
I didn't even apply, man.
Didn't even have the intention really. I was like, I'm gonna go to Morehead and drum. I didn't even care what majors they offered at that point. I was like, I just know I'm gonna go to drum and I'll figure the rest out.
Yeah,
like whatever.
That's kind of where my head was at too. Like I didn't apply anywhere else. And I could have gotten into probably some pretty good places. I just didn't even want to. Wasn't even a thought in my mind. It's crazy how young people can get just like honed in on something like that.
But I guess to kind of
get back to what we're originally talking about.
Yeah, like full circle back to like talking about DCI. Like you had mentioned earlier how much it's even changed in the 5 years since you've aged out.
Yeah, a lot.
And I think that WGI has played a big role in that. In how theatrical WGI shows are, not only from the winter percussion side of it, but also like the winter guard side of it. And now drum corps shows are way more of a production than they are like a show with movements. It's like you have this starting point and you tell a story from beginning to end and try to integrate all those transitions as seamless as possible. I mean, if you go back and watch old school drum corps, we had this
Opener.
movement, this movement. And that was cool, and they were great. It's just a different thing now. It's completely shifted, which is good in some ways and maybe a drawback in others.
See, I think there's a middle ground that they can reach. I don't necessarily like 100%. Like, for example, last season, summer 2016, the Blue Coat show was really cool.
It was great.
I enjoyed watching it. It was well done, well produced. But the very first time I saw that, I just thought, this is literally WGI Wins, WGI Percussion, WGI Winter Guard together in the same show on a football field.
Yeah,
and it's completely subjective whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, some people are going to love that, some people aren't. But obviously earlier I said I wasn't 100% of a fan of WGI. Like, I mean, I grew up on cadets 2000, 01, 02, 03. Like, I originally was taught by a cadet who marched in the early 90s. Like, that's who got me into the activity, exposed me to all this. So that's my background. Very military style, very strict. Like, we're just going to be a bunch of hard asses and play a ton of notes and march our butts off and be badass with it. Like, that's where I came from. So I think there's a middle ground. I almost think, and I'm a Blue Coats alum, and I was extremely happy they won a gold medal. I want them to win a drum trophy. I wanted the best in the world for them. But I think where they went with the activity might have been a little too far towards WGI, if that makes sense. The internet might destroy me for saying that. But.
Maybe. I mean, whatever. You can have your opinion.
Yeah.
I think that it's good to stretch and be innovative and try new things. But sometimes trying new things can, especially if it's successful, like they were, obviously they won. If it's successful, then it can start to filter into the rest of the activity. Like, well, if that's the formula that wins, then maybe we shift everything towards that. And I don't know if I necessarily am a huge fan of that, but I appreciate it when it's good. I guess it boils down to that. If a bunch of people start doing that and it sucks and they're not good at it, then I'm just be like, this sucks. But if it's good, it's good.
At the end of the day, clean is clean.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, this activity is about being clean.
Yeah.
And if it's clean, you can't argue with it. If you're playing really well, you're marching your butt off really well visually and everything, like, all right, sweet, you were awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, you had a good point too. We were talking, just kind of tossing stuff out earlier, saying that sometimes too a drawback is it leads away from the performance aspect of it. And what I mean by performance is like the achievement of it. If you're rewarding people solely based on design, and I'm not saying that's what happened to the Blue Coats last year when they won, but if you're just really being like, oh, they had a really cool show, like this is the coolest show, wasn't the cleanest show, wasn't the best played show, best marched, drummed, spun, guard, whatever, then it kind of gets gray to me there. I'm just like,
yeah,
we gotta watch it here. But
yeah, you gotta reward clarity at the end of the day.
Yes, you do. And I think drum corps last year, they got a big backlash when they did the whole thing with, we're not going to release recaps. We're not going to release recaps. Like,
I saw
that was a lot of the fun of like following drum corps. It's just like, oh, who's doing what? Like, how's it kind of stacking up? And it promotes transparency. Like, what's going on? I know they released everything at the end of the year, but come on, come on.
We're not gonna get into the judging conspiracy theories this early, or
no.
Well, I'm sure that'll come up at some point down the road, but yeah. So that went a complete direction I didn't expect that to go.
Yeah, man, that's fine. I mean, I wasn't expecting to talk about like
yeah, it's cool
drum corps, but
so
like or drum corps is like my personal like experience that much. But hey, that's what we're doing.
Yep. Here's a thought. Where do you think everything's headed? Like, do you think it's going to keep going down that WGI rabbit hole? Or do you think you're going to find eventually there's going to find that middle ground I was talking about earlier? I think they find the middle ground.
I think that they'll find a middle ground, but I think it's going to get I don't want to say more ridiculous, but more. I think it's going to start to flow more towards the WGI theatrics before it kind of finds a balancing point. It's kind of like one of those things where you have to try and do things before you realize where you should be, I guess.
You got to find the equilibrium point.
Yeah.
You got to find that middle part.
So I think a lot of people are going to take advantage. Like, obviously, this summer, there's already been all this stuff coming out on Facebook. People's uniforms, like, oh, check out so-and-so's new uniforms. So-and-so new uniforms. This person has new uniforms. They have new uniforms. Just about everybody has new uniforms, and they're all very
reminiscent,
thematic of what the show is.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like, oh, these are the cadets marching their traditional cream pants, burgundy tops, and this is their show. This is the cadets, and their uniform matches their show theme. So we've very, very much gotten away from the kind of traditional uniform, which is good and I guess bad. I think traditional uniforms definitely gave groups an identity.
Yes.
And now groups are more towards the show than like their core identity. But some groups are older, some groups are younger. Like Crown is a relatively newer group. I think they're only like maybe 25, 26 years old, as opposed to some of the other ones who are 50, 60 years old.
Blue Coats are in the 40s because 12 was their 40th anniversary, so they're like 45.
So like Crown never had like a real rich tradition, like say the Cadets, the Cavaliers, the Blue Devils and stuff. So when they started like messing with the uniforms, the year they came out with like the purple pants and the space pants band and all that stuff, hashtag, I really wasn't, I was just like, oh cool, like that's fine.
Yeah.
Didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
So, and it seems super comfortable.
I was getting ready to say, we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of bullshit in DCI, a lot of things you look back on and you're like, damn, that sucked. And the uniforms, the traditional ones, although they looked badass, a lot of them, were pretty uncomfortable to wear.
March around 90-degree heat in this wool behemoth of a heavy uniform.
Yeah, right.
Like, if I could march around in some short sleeves in the summer, yeah, I'll take that. Sign me up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me ask you this then. We obviously have maybe more of an open mind about change and stuff. Do you think that this change in kind of shift from more theatrical shows and uniforms will deter old people, or they'll still just be like, well, if they play great and they mix in classical music in with newer stuff, then I'm all right with it?
I think that's going to be the case. I think going this direction lessens their chance of breaking out of the niche that they are. Like, let's be honest, like the marching activity is a niche activity. But you saw it when they did the ESPN thing, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whenever the hell it was. Tried to like, yeah, open another one. Tried to break into the mainstream. And I think the farther you get away from that traditional military style, I think the more you pigeonhole yourself potentially into only resonating with people in the activity, if that makes sense.
I could see that. Like as a regular consumer, if they caught it on TV and you're like, man, what were they wearing? But the more traditional uniforms like resonate with people who've been to the college marching band show halftime, and they're like, oh yeah, I recognize that. I do agree with that, but at the same time, those people who are going or watching the college marching band, they're not going to buy tickets to a drum corps show.
No, at the end of the day, you're probably right.
They're not going to.
At the end of the day, it's not going to.
They're not going to go to DCI finals. I think there's some people out there that are overly grumpy about change and stuff. Like, oh, this isn't what I did, and this isn't how we used to do it back in the day. He's like, well, you know what? Back in the day, we didn't have iPhones and computers either, but I bet you use those now. So
yeah, people just resist change in everything. They like what they knew when they were younger, or how it used to be when they were in this activity, for example. They just liked the way it was. And I've only been out for 5 years, and in the 5 years it has changed so much that I'm already like, what the hell's going on right now? Like, what are they wearing? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that in a negative way, but I'm already doing that 5 years after I was done. Like,
yeah. I could see how if somebody was kind of like busy with life and took like 10 years off from watching DCI in like 2005 to like then opening it up in 2015, they'd be like, whoa, what happened? But
completely different.
Yeah,
Not even close.
I think watching the evolution of it's kind of crazy too, though.
It is cool to go back and watch like something from the 70s, then the 80s, and the 90s, and just watch it get. I love how it gets more and more athletic as time goes, because for me, like, this was my sport.
Yeah.
For lack of a better way to put it, I viewed doing rudimental percussion and being in drum lines as like playing basketball or baseball or anything like that. Like, I was there to compete and win. Like, I learned music as a side effect, but I saw old cadet stuff and I was like, I want to do that more than anything in the freaking world.
Yeah, I want to be a badass like those dudes.
Exactly. I can't tell you how many times I watched the Cadets 2000 drum feature from that like Millennium show or whatever the heck it was.
Oh yeah. I think one of the first Cadets videos I ever found was on like the original Vic Firth, and I was sitting there like on my parents' dial-up internet waiting 10 minutes for this 3-minute video to load, and watching like Cadets 01 snare line just absolutely throw down. I was like, yeah, that's
sold.
That's sick.
Sold.
That's why I went and auditioned for the Cadets eventually. But
yeah, I wanted to be a cadet for a long time. Basically the entirety of high school. And then Tom Monks left. And I was like, well, he was the real reason I wanted to go there. So I'll go to Blue Star. It's closer.
And Tom's there.
Yeah. Worked out perfectly. I mean, right when I'm ready to march drum corps, he comes closer to me. I don't have to go to like Pennsylvania or something.
I went to New Jersey in camps. That's where I was. Yeah. It was a hike. But yeah, I think the change is crazy, but sometimes you gotta change. Just got to adapt or die.
Pretty much. Would it have died really if it hadn't changed?
No, but well, I don't know. Like, if you have the same style continuously without anything fresh happening, maybe it would have gotten stale.
Do you think this will be cyclic? Do you think like we're gonna go full force into the WGI direction with all this, and then 10 years from now pull back?
Maybe it gets like kind of away from traditional, and then somebody comes out and designs a show. It's like, let's go back to our roots. Does a show and they win.
I saw a really funny troll tweet that the Blue Coats Twitter like shared, or I don't know how Twitter works. You're in charge.
Retweeted.
Yeah, retweeted.
Come on, Mike.
I joined it to get with the times. But they basically, this kid or whoever it was said, what if the Blue Coats pull off the biggest troll of all time? They did that full WGI show last year and won. And they come out in traditional uniforms this year and go back to the way things were. And then everybody like piled on like that's what won. And you already saw it happen. Like Vanguard's uniforms this year, the Cadets uniforms, the Blue Star, like they're all molding slowly into what the Blue. They're not fully there yet. Just that bodysuit pretty much. Yeah. But they're going that way. And like they get everyone on that train, and then all of a sudden just psych.
Gotcha.
Go back to like the 2012 uniforms, like the traditional, not old Blue Coats alum would be like, that's not traditional. Well, yeah, whatever. The traditional style of uniform, and just like do a traditional show and just.
I'm not exactly who started that in DC. I mean, maybe it was Crown when they went to. I mean, my second year there, we wore vests with the velour sleeves.
Crown, I think, was the pioneer of doing that.
And then they started doing that for a couple years, and then they did like the velour pants or whatever, like the purple pants and stuff.
Purple Pants Band.
Yeah, Purple Pants Band. And so I don't know if that's kind of where it started, but now it's really just kind of took off, and everybody's doing that. I mean, it looks more comfortable to perform in. The only thing that trips me out the most, though, which I think is hilarious, is obviously during these like rehearsals in the sun, everybody's wearing these hats all day long, and now they get out there in the field and they have these crazy tan lines across their face, and I'm just like, that's pretty funny.
It's interesting. All right, let's actually talk about some percussion related stuff. We've been talking about DCI in general. Let's get into. I think marching percussion's never been in a better spot.
Oh, definitely.
Like,
I
it's
agree.
just
Absolutely, 100%. People disagree with that, like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And like I said, it's probably old school, but the vocabulary that people play is just through the roof. The demand, not only physically with what you're being asked to do with your marching and visual and the choreography, but just like the hybrid rudiments and stuff, I think it's through the roof.
Yeah, it's some of the writing right now. Like, you look at guys like Mike Jackson, I think, has the most unique, innovative writing style at this point. Like, I've seen you and I have both been paying attention a lot this season and last season and stuff, and his writing, and call me a fan, why march for him, whatever you want to say. He didn't write when I was at Blue Coats. Rarick did, who also does a phenomenal job. There's no one else that writes like him. There's so much space and so much, like, and that space is so hard to do well. Like, I remember,
dude, it's just so musical. Like, they play like a triplet check, but like decrescendo, and it's just like perfect, and it's just so effective.
But they're still also ramming notes too.
Yeah,
like it's musical, but they're still playing a lot of beef, and I think that's a real credit to his writing style, in the sense that, I mean, if you write so dense, it's hard to be musical because it takes so much muscle and effort and strength to play that many notes. Yeah, you're rolling your eyes at me. You're like, I marched Crown in 09. I know all about that.
You only have to get one attack right.
Yeah, just
you don't stop.
Jump on the train and just stay on the train.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes the activity so cool, though, too. Like, especially in the percussion world, like all the styles. Like, you have someone like Tom Ox and Lee Bettis, where you're gonna hear like people just ramming notes, and that's challenging in one way. And then you hear like a Mike Jackson, a Tom Rarick, whatever, Mike McIntosh, who writes these like crazy metric modulation changes with space, and you're just like, that's also super cool and super difficult.
And something, I think, a trap a lot of people fall into, and maybe it's just because they haven't played both styles of music. They hear a less beefy passage, like a Mike Jackson passage, or more, I don't want to say a West Coast style, but there is a difference. There's East Coast and West Coast when it comes to rudimental percussion.
Like, oh, yeah.
Without a doubt. Like, when it comes to approach to the drum, but they hear that more flowy West Coast open style of writing, and I've heard a lot of people say, well, their book's easy. They're not playing a lot of notes. It's like,
get out there and do it then.
No, well, yeah, but you know how hard it is to constantly reattack together over and over again? Like, and that's not to discredit that style of just, I don't want to say, it's not a run-on sentence, but that very, very dense style of writing. Lots of notes and very few reattacks. So once, like I said earlier, once you're on the train, just stay on the damn train. Yeah. And a lot of people I've heard say recently that this West Coast style has sort of crept into the Midwest and the East Coast writing styles, and because it's cool, it's been spreading, and I hear them say it's easy, or your book's easy. People said our Blue Coats 2012 book was easy. There's a lot of space in that. Like, yeah, was it the most choppy thing in the world? No.
Try to get 8 guys in a snare line to attack a rough from a tacit or a rest.
Like, I heard comments all summer that book was easy, and it's like that was not easy. And there's all kinds of books like that. Like, both. How long's Mike Jackson been at Blue Knights?
I think he started in 2015, maybe. Maybe his third year.
I think
third or fourth year.
Yeah.
Third or
I think
fourth.
You're right. But I think he's the epitome of it. I think of that funky, open style of writing, and I think it's very fun to listen to.
Hemiola over the bar line, like syncopated. Mike Jackson making crazy rhythms feel good.
Yeah, right.
I love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
But yeah, it's just, I think it's cool seeing the the dichotomy and like the opposite spectrums of West Coast, East Coast, and then you have like the Midwest groups who are doing
some melding
some
of both.
some of both, and then you got Paul Rennick out there on the West Coast with Vanguard doing his thing, and
That dude is a freaking machine.
they just churn out great drum lines year after year.
He is 1 year shy in 2012 of winning a drum title every other year since 2006. Think about that. That's over a decade.
So they won in 06,
08,
08,
2010,
10,
didn't in 12,
14?
14.
Did Vanguard win in 14?
I'm pretty sure. I'm going to look it
Look
up.
that up.
I'm going to look it
I
up.
don't know if they did or not. They won last summer, so 16. Like, it's just it's.
I'm pretty sure they won in 14.
Now you can say
Because 13 was Cadets won 2013.
yes.
15 was Blue Devils, I think.
I think you're right. I think BD did win drums in 15.
Old trusty snare signs. Surely they'll have it.
There's your
Vanguard won in 14 and 16. So 2012, Blue Devils won. That was the only one they didn't win every other year.
That's insane.
He's got that dude has a system figured out. I would love to sit down and drink a beer with that guy. Like, I just think
I feel like the stuff he would say would be so over top of my head. I'm like, oh man, that's crazy.
Can't even comprehend what you're talking about right now. No, I don't think it is. I think he's got a system figured out, and I don't want to say a formula, but it is a little formulaic. If you listen to his writing and the approach they take every year, you could say it's formulaic. That not
formulaic in that it's consistently clean every year.
They're just really good.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to put it. Even the years they don't win a drum trophy, they're in the top 3.
They're up there.
They're in contest for it. Like, and you know what's cool about that is he's been that consistent guy. We were just talking about all this WGI influence and the West Coast style starting to meld with East Coast into this nice hybrid of awesome.
Yeah.
He's still doing the same shit. Go watch Phantom 06 and go watch Vanguard 2017. Like, despite the different uniforms, like, the approach to the drum is the same. The writing style, like, it just works. And it kind of is cool in the sense that it shows you can still win without having to jump ship and jump on this current wave of change.
Yeah.
And we'll see if he keeps winning. But like you said, clean wins.
Although I wish they were still playing on pearl drums, but that's just a personal preference. So
Yeah, we're not going to go there. He knows how to make Dynasty sound good, so more power to him.
Yeah. Well, Dynasty did a good job changing their drums to better.
This is true. Dynasty has drastically improved their drums. But yeah, it's just, I think it's really, really cool how you can still be on that old, because he's kind of old school. Like, his writing's always been kind of funky, but
He does a lot of good interplay between sections.
do
Which
they
is really
do a lot
cool.
of body? Does his groups do a lot of body in their shows?
No.
Yeah, see, like, he's not jumping on the bandwagon, and he's still winning. So it's, at the end of the day, no matter how you skin the cat, clean wins.
Yeah.
Like, whether you're dancing around or standing still, playing perfect, or marching 6 to 5 across the field, playing perfect. Like,
I mean, the visual
clean
judge
is clean.
Visual judge might like your choreography, but Prosperity or Alan Christensen's out there in the field and you botch that triplet roll doing it, they're like, no.
That's all they care about.
They don't care.
Like, I always use the example of I aged out in 2012 with the Bluecoats. That drill was not hard. There was one like 30-second segment in the fourth tune for the snare line, at least. I can't speak for the basses and the quad line, and everyone's drill differs slightly, but on the whole, our battery drill for the snare line was not that hard.
My
And
drill was hard.
I know it was.
We didn't do a whole lot of body.
Well,
but
hold on a second.
yeah.
Never once. We listened. Our staff put every single drum judge tape up on a SharePoint or a Group Me or whatever.
Yeah.
Or Dropbox. Sorry, Dropbox.
Some way to listen to it.
After every show, we get on the bus. We had the tape we could listen to. Never one time did a judge say, "Oh man, great job on that attack on that roll and finishing the phrase strong. Oh, but I wish you all were moving a little more here, or I wish you had added some body to that for some more." Nope. They just said, "Oh, you all played that perfectly. Thumbs up." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to play that game. And Clean wins.
I have had judges say on some of the tapes we got, oh, I appreciate the environmental demand. Like, if you're spread apart or if you're moving fast, but it's never been like, oh, nice plie there. Like, anything like that.
Yeah, they just... But I still, even if they call it out and say, oh, great environmental demand, like, I think they would give you the same credit if you were in less of a demanding environment and still played it perfect. They would still say, that was incredible.
Yeah, maybe you just get a slight little tap on the back for doing it, and
like,
it's hard. But
here's a
if you
pat
do
on the
it,
back.
if you chow it, it don't matter. It's not like, oh, I noticed that you were doing a 6 to 5 there. Nope, don't care. It was bad.
Yeah, it was dirty. It was dirty. Like, I think drill writers go too far sometimes with what they try to get battery drum lines to do in drum corps a little bit, because you got to think about the limitations that wearing a hunk of metal, especially for bass drummers and quad drummers, like, it's going to limit how much ground you can cover and still play well. You know what I mean? Like, if you're hauling ass, it's just limitations that a lot of drill writers, I feel like, don't understand or don't care about. I don't want to say don't care, but like, I know I had a lot of friends that marched Crown in 2012 when I was on tour, and I'm pretty sure during spring training they were down to 4 snare drummers because everybody was hurt or sick because their drill was so hard. And it's like, at what point is it worth it? That was one of Brian Mason's big things. He always said, is it worth it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate question. Is it worth it? I mean,
Like,
you have to design. That's such a tricky thing from a design standpoint. Like, every section in drum corps has to design their caption to try to win because they all matter. I mean, some are weighted different than others, but if you're not designing to try to win all the captions, then you're not going to win.
yeah, at the end of the day.
I mean, because the drums factor in, guard factors in, the brass, the visual, the GE, they all factor in. So you have to try to design and set yourself up to win in all of them.
What's always funny to me, we mentioned before, is it worth it? There's a lot of different, like, subtle things you can do to rudimental drum music to make it way harder, but no one's ever going to notice it.
Dude, yes.
It's like, you see people freak out about all these intricate little interbeat stickings and weird ways to play stuff. It's like, at the end of the day, no one is going to know you did that. So it's not worth it. All it's going to do is potentially cause you to play it bad and lose points, where you could have just played like straight alternating sticking and it would sound exactly the same and the judge would still be like, oh, great rhythmic interp or whatever. You know, like,
that's so ironic. I was actually texting Aaron Bailey last night, who hopefully will get on with us here
pretty soon
to talk. And he's been spending time with the Blue Coats. He marched there last year. He's doing some internship stuff there this year. And he was talking, he's like, yeah, man, Coats music this year is just so hard. Like, there's times where they could play paradiddle diddles. Instead, they're playing double paradiddles. And I literally texted him back and I said, but who's going to notice?
Yeah, you're still...
No one's going to know. So why do it? I mean,
true.
Yeah, there are things where it's like, yeah, that was really cool. I know exactly what that is. That was hard. But, like, something like that, you're not going to know. It's just going to create something that's a bad moment.
Potentially
a bad moment.
I feel like you can see a difference, though. Like, in some spots, I agree with you. In some spots, yeah, just play a paradiddle diddle. No one's ever going to know. But I could see how it could make it visually look different and look cool or whatever the phrase. But at the end of the day, you are probably right. Like, why do you think people stop playing those after they switched to Kevlar heads? Like, when's the last time anyone played a significant number of double paradiddles ever? Because a paradiddle diddle flows better, feels better to play, and
last time I played a double paradiddle was the Moorhead State fight song.
Remember when Josh made us play double paradiddles 8 and 25 at Rhythm X auditions in 2012?
Nope. I probably didn't do them. I probably just played regular paradiddles. I was probably like, nope, we're not going to need to do this.
No, he definitely... I mean, we knew who that snare line was going to be before the season started, but...
Pretty much.
Like, the second audition or whatever, he basically said, all right, 2-bar triplet check, and double paradiddles for 8 bars or whatever after that. Like triplet, like 6 tuplets. It was hard. It's a hard rudiment to play well.
Yeah, it is.
There's a reason people don't write them that much anymore, because you have to be really good at them to play them well.
So that was just kind of ironic that you brought that up, because I literally was texting him about that last night, and I was like, oh man, that's cool. Like, if they can pull that off and clean it, or if it's clean, great. But if not, just change it and make it good. I don't think Marty Griffin's going to be out there in the field judging and be like, oh man, I wish that paradiddle diddle was a double paradiddle instead.
I would have put you in first if you had more different stickings in your show. I got bored of watching the PDD over and over again.
It's so fast. It goes
Never
by
happens.
like that, like the blink of an eye.
Would never happen. They just hear rhythms and whether they're together or not.
Yeah, I mean, the visual is so demanding on the percussion now that I feel like the judges, half the time, they're not even looking at the drum line. They're just like listening and watching around for someone not to get hit. Like, I don't want to get hit by a color guard or brass member, so I'm just going to like turn my back and listen.
Yeah. I got the opportunity to, speaking of that, drills moving so fast, it's hard to actually, like, for a judge to stay in front of them and figure out exactly what they're playing beyond what rhythm and whether it's clean. I got an opportunity to see Crown rehearse this past Tuesday when they were in Kentucky, and their drill's hard. Their drum line's moving, and I was a good friend of ours, Dan Shack, who's the battery coordinator, I think is his official title. I was talking to him on the sideline on the track, and I was like, man, they're running. And he goes, yeah, the techs can't even get in front of them for half the show.
That's
because and I was just like, that's awesome, but it's kind of crappy at the same time from a teaching standpoint.
It's limiting.
He was like, yeah, during ensemble, there's a lot of chunks that we just like can't be out there because they're too integrated with everything else, and
you're just hoping that what you did in percussion sectionals and like ensemble like is translating into full ensemble.
yeah.
But
all right, well, I think we've rambled enough and gotten off topic, and hopefully
that's kind of the beauty of this thing, though. Like
this format,
you just like take like a stream of conscience thing, and like we have like a starting point, and just see where it takes you.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. I think the podcast medium is really cool for that. Like we sat down with like an outline, but
we didn't really follow it.
No, we just talked about stuff, and hopefully you guys enjoyed what you heard. Hopefully you'll come back and continue listening. I think the plan is to try to upload like 1 episode a week.
Yeah.
And like I said before, we're going to do...
as long as our schedules allow us to get together and do them.
Yeah, well, that'll be fine. Just like I said earlier, we're going to do recaps from regionals once they start happening. We're going to get because they actually are providing recaps again. We have access to a Flow Marching account. We're going to watch all the shows.
Yep.
We're going to give our opinions, who we like, who we don't like. Do we agree, disagree with the number on the sheet? Again, we're not trying to offend anybody. This is all our opinion. It's very subjective, but whatever.
We're not even out there on the field with them judging, but we're just gonna make our
judgment
opinions.
Call.
Yeah.
And eventually, I think Evan mentioned it earlier, we're gonna have our first guest. Hopefully, for the 3rd or 4th episode, it's gonna be Aaron Bailey. He's a center for Bluecoats last summer. He's also from Kentucky, good friend of ours. It'll be good to sit down with him and pick his brain a little bit about the summer.
Man. He said we need to hang out soon, so hopefully we can get together.
Yep. Other than that, we've also set up a Facebook group,
facebook.com/AgedOutPodcast.
Or you can follow us on Twitter at
AgedOutPodcast. We're going to get that cranking.
Yep. So check us out there. Give us the follow, the like, what have you. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Peace out.